Have you ever wondered what are we all made of? All life is made of cells. They come in thousands of shapes and sizes. The human body has over 100 trillion of them. Carrying the dances of life. They are so tiny that 10,000 could fit on the head of a pin. The cells in our body undergo over 500 quadrillion chemical reactions every second. Their amazing biochemistry has nurtured life on Earth for billions of years and protected us from harm. They ask only that we take care of ourselves. Our science has barely begun to understand them. Let's explore cells.
On Earth, there are two major types of cells, the prokaryotic and eukaryotic. The prokaryotic cell is the simplest and most ancient type of cells. They would be only form of life on Earth for billions of years before eventually giving rise to eukaryotic cells. If you take a look at prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells side by side, you could see a number of differences. To begin with, prokaryotic cells are a lot smaller to eukaryotic cells and have a simple structure. But bear in mind this simple structure is a good thing for prokaryotes because it allows to reproduce very quickly and very effectively. If you take a look inside a prokaryote cell, it would probably be surprised on how simple it is. For example, prokaryotic cell is a lack of nucleus. In fact, the name prokaryote actually given hand about structure. Kary means curl or nucleus, and pro means before. So basically, the word prokaryote means before nucleus. The inside the prokaryote cell is basically an open unit with no compartments. There are no membrane-bound organelles. However, small structure is called ribosomes is getting to inside cytoplasm. The cell's DNA is located in origin of cytoplasm called the nucleoid region. The nucleoid region is not the same thing as the nucleus because it's not enclosed to membrane. Prokaryotes also have a cell wall that surrounds a plasma membrane. The composition of the cell wall depends on whether the cell is archaeon or bacteria, but basically it consists of complex of polysaccharides. Prokaryotes also possess one or more flagella nucleus or notorious is for movement. In contrast, eukaryotic cells contain a membrane bounded by nucleus and other membrane-bound organelles. The name eukaryote also given hand about its structure. Eu means true, and I remember kary means nucleus. In essence, the word eukaryote means true nucleus. Eukaryotic cells are larger and much more complicated than prokaryotic cells. However, they do share few things common to prokaryotes. Let's take a look to Venn diagram to compare prokaryotes to eukaryotes. It is also seen had a lot of common. Let's start with commonalities. Both prokaryotes and eukaryotes have DNA as their genetic material, have ribosomes, have cytoplasm, and have a plasma membrane. Now take a look how it differs. Prokaryotic cells are the oldest type of cell. They are small and relatively simple. Eukaryotic cells evolved from prokaryotic cell later. They're larger and much more complex internally. Prokaryotes lack both of nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. Eukaryotic cells have nucleus and also contain organelles. Prokaryotes are single-celled organisms. Eukaryotes can be either single-celled or multicellular. And finally, the DNA of prokaryote is usually organized in single cellular chromosome. But DNA of eukaryote is organized as multiple linear chromosomes.
The cell wall, this is an open reinforcement of the cell. The nuclear division contains a DNA bundle. The ribosome can be found by floating inside the plasma. The pili, or tiny hair-like protein protection of the plasma membrane. The flagella may have one or more in the cell. Let's review the structure we talked about. Now we have the function and components. The plasma membrane facilitates selective transport in materials in or out of the cell. Proteins embedded the post-pil bilayer may access channel or may bind actively transport in a specific compound across the cell membrane. The cell wall have a physical defense against the danger of the cell environment. May also offer osmotic stress defense to preventing the cell from bursting in hypotonic environment. The nucleoid contains a cell DNA, in other words, cellular blueprint, containing the information needed from the maintenance and reproduction optical bacteria cell. The ribosome is the site of photosynthesis. Here the information restored from the messenger RNA and translated into retaining of amino acid, and eventually falls into protein. The pili of the cell perform twitching motility or short suddenly motion. May also use attachment surface. The flagella allows the cell chemotax or move into directly fashion towards the food or away from the danger, such as toxins. Here's the overview once again. Finally, we discussed of reproduction of prokaryotic cells. The prokaryotic cell reproduces by process of binary fission or splitting into two after the cell reaches the certain size. It's divided into central plane. Keep in mind of each of daughter of the cell contains a copy of the nucleide.
All cells have few things in common, including the cell membrane, some membranes, and all membrane-bound organelles are made up of almost entirely of lipids. Lipids are a broad category of fatty macromolecules which include oils, waxes, triglycerides, and phospholipids. Phospholipids are a major component of cell membrane and membrane-bound organelles. Triglycerides are fat and oils also known as saturated and unsaturated fat. Wax, like your earwax, are protective lubricating substance. And sterol, like cholesterol or steroids, are used for cell wall integrity and for making hormones. Mitochondria are sometimes called the powerhouse of the cell. They transport energy from organic molecules and ATP which parallel all the reaction in the cell. Because mitochondria are the energy producer, you can expect to find more mitochondria in cells that do more work like muscle cells. Ribosomes are small structures that are responsible for building proteins. They have no membrane like other organelles and just made of proteins and RNA. The endoplasmic reticulum is the transportation highway which has two parts, the wrap and smooth. The wrap ER produces phospholipids and protein which is discovered in ribosome. And the smooth ER produces lipids such as cholesterol. You can tell apart from the rough ER because it has no ribosome in it and it's more tubular than flat. The Golgi apparatus, which is also known as the Golgi body, modifies monocellular product that receive from the endoplasmic reticulum and prepares them for export to other region of the cell or out of the cell. Entirely, you can tell the Golgi apparatus from the ER because it doesn't have ribosome and further away from the nucleus. Lysosomes are vessels that are made from Golgi apparatus that contain digestive enzyme. This enzyme will help break down unwanted substance. Cytoskeleton is a network of tubes in filament that gives shape and structure to the cell. Just like your bones give your body shape and structure. Centrioles are short cylinder of microtubules that exist in pair and are used in animal cell to organize microtubules during cell division so that the chromosome will divide evenly. This cell image has flagella, which is long whip-like tail, form motion, but it doesn't have any cilia. Cilia are a small version of flagella, can be used for propulsion or is a way to increase surface area for things like absorbing food in your body intestine. Nucleus contains DNA, and it is also known as the governor of the cell. It regulates control all the activities inside the cell, and it has three distinct parts: the nuclear membrane, the chromatin, and the nucleus. Mitosis is a process of dividing the duplicate DNA of a cell into two nuclei. Mitosis is split into distinct stages. The first stage is prophase. The DNA condenses, organizes, and the classic chromosome structure appear. This comes from metaphase, where the microtubule attached to the chromosomes. This step is followed by metaphase, where the chromosomes align, then followed by anaphase, where the chromosomes separate. Finally, during telophase, nuclear membrane reappears around the two sets of chromosomes. Mitosis is now complete. After mitosis, two new cells are formed by a process called cytokinesis. For many eukaryotic cells, a cell duplicates every 24 hours. Most of the life of a cell is spent in interphase. Interphase consists of three stages called G1, S, and G2. In G1, or also known as GAP1, is the first growth stage of interphase. In G1, the cell grows to nearly its full size and perform many of its specific biochemical functions that aid the organism. Next is S phase. This is an important stage because it is during space that DNA in the nucleus is replicated. The cell next enter another growth stage called G2 or GAP2. It is during GAP2 that the cell finish growing. Like in mitosis, cell meiosis pass through the interphase G1, S, and G2 stage. Before they enter meiosis, the DNA inside the germline cell duplicate before meiosis begins during the S phase. The duplicate germline chromosomes are called sister chromatids. These chromatids remain attached to each other until the second cell division. There are two cell division events during meiosis. First division is meiosis 1. result in two unique cells that have half amount of DNA as the parent. The second is the meiosis II, result in four unique haploid cells but only have one copy of each chromosome. These haploid cells are the gametes that could go unproduced on the upstream to sexual reproduction. There are many different types of eukaryotic cells, though animal and plants are the most familiar eukaryotes. Now, let's compare an animal cell and plant cell and hear what are they common. They both have plasma membrane, endoplasmic reticulum, mitochondria, nucleus, and Golgi apparatus. And now, these are the difference of plant and animal cell. Plant cell is composed of cell wall that provide shape, make the cell rigid, and protect the cell. Next is chloroplast, the site of photosynthesis. It contains green pigment called chlorophyll, who is the performer of the photosynthesis. The last plant cells have large vacuole that maintain plant rigidity and keep them erect. In animal cell, the vacuole is small but has a large number of it. Animal cells also consist of centrosome or centrioles that make microtubules organized. The last, animal cells have cilia or flagella that make it mobile.
Take 5 minutes to get the picture. More than 60,000 billion cells make up the human body. They are the units that form the tissues which make up our organs, like the liver, heart, and lungs. When the body needs it, our cells splits into two and replace those cells that is defective or come end of the lifespan. These make it impossible a tissue to preserve their shape, and they respect their functions with the passage of time. Every cell, therefore, programmed to multiply and die. This order complex program is controlled by the center of the cell, the nucleus, which contain chromosomes and containing many genes made up of DNA. Sometimes, some of these genes undergo a change. The nucleus then sends out abnormal orders, and the cell goes wrong. It multiplies uncontrollably. It takes a life of its own. Each new cell produced contains the same defect. The cell proliferate chaotically and form a tumor. This process may be short, but it's often long. 10 to 30 years may separate the birth of the first abnormal cell from the appearance of the tumor of about 1 cubic centimeter. The tumor forms of many blood vessels in order to survive. This will supply the tumor with oxygen and nutrients, allow it to live and grow. This is what we call phenomenon of angiogenesis of the tumor. However, only really becomes really dangerous when cancer cells begin to invade through the vessels into the adjacent areas and spread to the surrounding organs. These cells can be invade the other parts of the body, multiply, produce new tumor. Metastasis is the term used for the spreading process, but white thousand cells become cancerous. There are many factors that can exist to different degrees. Factor has been identified such as heredity, genetic, and normalis. Exposition. Some viruses, HIV, hepatitis B, C, and D, papilloma virus, abstain, vela virus, exposition to toxic agents. chemical product, radiation, sun, unhealthy behaviors such as consumption of alcoholic tobacco or diet too rich in fat and low in fruition. Vegetables. Today, 25 million people in the world live with cancer. 7 million died from it each year. The disease represents the leading cause of mortality. To those under 65, lung cancer is the most widespread, followed by the breast cancer, colorectal, stomach, and prostate cancer. The means to combat cancer, however, exist. This often complementary are used to learn our combination according to the type of cancer and its status. The goal of the treatments is to make possible to eliminate the tumor and kill the tumor and cure the patient in early stage cancer. Or like chronic disease, to control its development, there are mainly three kinds of treatment. Surgery consists of removing a tumor in full or entirety. Radiotherapy exposes the tumor to radioactive rays which prevented disease cell from multiplying and destroys them. Chemotherapy consists of administering systemic medicinal substances to destroy the cancer cells or prevent them spreading. Chemotherapy and radiotherapy act on cancer cell, but also on healthy cell, which is explained as side effect. But today, better note the characteristic of cancer cells, make it possible to develop therapies and target the cancer development mechanism, most specifically sanity and Adventist R&D is already present in all these areas to fight against cancer on all fronts.